Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I'd just like to reintroduce myself to all these new arrivals. I am Ziponzama, the Solution Specialist of Geotab Africa, and your host for today. And I welcome everybody to the Geotab Africa Training Webinar Series. We appreciate everybody that has taken the time to register and attend our training focus webinar today. The premise of our training webinar series is to focus on the Geotab's 6 pillars of innovation. And today our focus is set on the safety pillar. We will be taking a look at all the functions surrounding safety that we offer at Geotab. So get nice and comfy while we share what we have in store for you. Some quick housekeeping notes. Number 1, kindly note that this webinar will be recorded and made available for viewing on our YouTube channel. So kindly do subscribe to our Geotab Africa YouTube channel to find all parts of these webinar series that we post from time to time. And I think you will see on the chat that I did leave a link so that you guys can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Alternatively, this webinar will be available for download upon request. Number 2, if at any point you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A section at the bottom of the webinar screen so that we will be attending to these towards the Q&A portion at the end of the webinar. And lastly, kindly complete our training webinar survey following our session today. The survey will automatically pop up on your browser once the session has ended. Your feedback is vitally important to us. And now, without further delay, I would like to introduce Mohammed Ali Mayet, who's the export support of Geotab Africa, and he will guide us today with this morning's session. Thank you, Mohammed.
Morning, everyone. Hope everyone is well and safe. Today, I will be discussing safety, which is one of the 6 pillars of innovation in Geotab. Safety. Safety, stay safe, means more than reducing personal injury and vehicle damage. It is essential to choose a partner that assists in safety behind the wheel that can result in many indirect and direct benefits for your fleet. This is an improvement of reduction of fuel usage, company reputability. With Geotab, we're transforming the way companies choose safety with easy-to-use next-generation telematics provider, MyGeotab software. To ensure safety, it is critical to monitor speeding, harsh driving, behavior after hours, trips, over-acceleration, harsh braking, and seatbelt usage. We start off with the driver vehicle inspection reporting, or also called as the DVIR. A driver vehicle inspection report, or the DVIR report, must be submitted before or after a shift. A driver can drive multiple vehicles, but will fill in a DVIR report per vehicle. He will inspect the vehicle and log any defects. Thereafter, maintenance staff can review the DVIR reports and take corrective actions. They can update the inspection reports in MyGeotab and make notes if repairs were made and if the vehicles are safe or unsafe. These reports can be generated to show only defective or repair entry devices. Each report has a status graphic for quick assessment. A green check mark, meaning safe to operate, a blue wrench for device that has been repaired, a red X for vehicle unsafe to operate, and a red wrench meaning a vehicle needs repairs.
So, Mr. Mohammed, I just have a question for you with the DVIR that you've just spoken about. Is there a limit in the type of repairs I can add? Can I add maybe something like a jack and a spare maybe missing?
All right. With the DVIR, there's no limits. You can, depending on your type of environment, fleet you are running, you can add in jacks, you can add in any other safety requirement that is needed for the daily checks. For example, the jack is quite critical. And on the DVIR, if he mentions no jack, the vehicle should not be allowed to drive further. So there's no limitation, and you can change and modify what type of checks you'd like to add on the DVIR.
Fantastic. Thank you for that.
General dashboard checks before starting trips. Before starting any trips, drivers should review dashboard lights and confirm there is no warning lights. Default checks are engine light, driver and passenger seatbelt lights, hazard lights, battery and oil is okay. With MyGeotab, these engine faults can also be viewed on the engine fault report. Please note that engine data is specific to vehicle types. Seatbelt usage and warnings. Seatbelt is one of the critical safety checks. With drivers continuously not buckling up, with MyGeotab, you can set up rules based on once the trip has started. And if the driver has not buckled up, the buzzer will keep beeping, forcing the driver to buckle up. Furthermore, rules can be set based on time and speed. And if the seat belt has still not been buckled up, the control room will receive notifications and they can address it further. IX near-field communication, or also regarded as NFC. The NFC driver identification assists to monitor driver behavior per vehicle, regarded as driver-specific habit monitoring, allowing MyGeotab users to generate behavior reports based on drivers. If a driver is not allowed to drive a vehicle due to a license expiry or non-compliant, we have something called the whitelist feature. And with the whitelist feature, a driver can be deactivated not to be able to start the vehicle with his Geotab tag, keeping driver and company safe. Improve vehicle and driver event triggers. MyGeotab rules can be easily set up for improved event recording. The accelerometer chip on the Geotab device accurately captures forward, backward, and lateral movements, assisting in giving information regarding harsh braking, rapid acceleration, speeding, after-hours usage, and impacts against possible vehicle accident. Also with zone marking, it will assist to identify unknown stops. Setting up rules and viewing exceptions. Easy one-click to activate and to monitor rules. Once you turn on this feature of rules, rules will be automatically generated based on the harsh events. This data can be analyzed in exception reports to identify all the unsafe drivers. The more the exceptions of the driver, thus the driver is a higher risk to the company. Once these offenses are addressed with the driver will reduce his offenses, making driving safer, and saving on vehicle expenses due to negligent driving. Risk management report. The risk management report assists fleet managers to identify the areas of concern. The driver continues his trips and rules and speeding laws. However, the driver tends to avoid some speeding laws. With this feature, some type of coaching and early investigation is always needed to stop future uncontrollable results, which is a safety risk and a bad reputation for business. With the risk management report, you can have an overview of the risks your drivers are to the business. Breaking a speed rule is a threat in safety and also a cost impact. With risk management reports, the first few columns are based on the driver's speed. If a vehicle is exceeding his normal speeds of 120, this will trigger on the risk management report, and you can identify how many times he's been overspeeding over 120. If he's doing in-town driving, he should be driving less than 120. If he continues to drive above the 120 kilometers and exceeding to 140, there is a second column that will calculate the speeds above 140. Thus, he becomes a higher risk and an expense to the business. This is more of a threat and needs immediate confrontation to avoid unsafe environments. Due to the accuracy of the data, this data can be used in a court of law and the driver can be dismissed. If a driver reduces his speed, a speed control is a reduction in cost and saves lives. The next column is harsh braking. Monitoring harsh braking can assist drivers to be coached to stop possible accident. Harsh acceleration. Monitoring harsh acceleration can assist drivers to be coached to reduce wear and tear on vehicles and reduce fuel costs. And idling. Idling is not only about waste of fuel. A vehicle left unattended, idling, can create a safety risk. The IX Go talk. The ability to add on in-vehicle audible alerts assist in driver coaching, thus making the driver more aware and safer driving. With MyGeotab, you can create audible alerts not only for harsh driving behavior, but you can create early warnings when vehicles are driving in high-risk areas with zones created for these high-risk areas and exception rules linked to these high-risk areas. Audible alerts can be set, notifying the driver when he's coming close to the high-risk area or is in the high-risk area. Another rule that can be created is also for schools. You can create notifications that when a driver is driving close to a school and there's a lot of kids, he can be warned to say, slow down the speed, possible kids crossing. Live map monitoring with active tracking. Vehicles out of sight and no access of location is a risk to the business. With MyGeotab, you can see continuous live locations of all your vehicles. Added to live position, we also have a feature called active tracking. Active tracking stimulates continuous live updating, assisting control rooms to keep an eye on the vehicle's fleet second by second. As the vehicle is consistently moving, you can also set up rules that if a vehicle in a specific area lowers his speed or he stops, immediately this control room can be notified. Live map monitoring, avoiding no-go areas. Safety is key aspect of any business. And to create the environment for your fleet, make sure your Geotab users are regular updating client zones and unauthorized zones. These zones are critical to assist the business in monitoring activities of the drivers. Once the unauthorized zones are created, exception rules are linked to these zones, and fleet controllers will now be notified by email if the vehicle stops, either inside or outside these zones. And an early attention can be given to the reasons of the stop, and safety can be applied. Exception rules that create driver alert can keep the driver on guard when passing these high-risk areas. We can also make rules based on specific zones that they are allowed to pass the zone of high risk, however, they're not allowed to stop. You can create multiple zones within a single zone.
So, Mr. Mohammed,
yes, Zibo.
Yes, sorry to interject there. So just a quick question with the zones that you said we can create. How many can we create of these zones?
That's a very good question. With MyGeotab, we don't have limitation on the zones. You can create unlimited zones.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Vehicles entering or leaving unauthorized areas. Once all the clients are zoned off and the high-risk zones are created, when the vehicles are entering the high-risk location or unauthorized locations, You can set up different rules based on the environments. Example, vehicle allowed to drive in that zone and pass through, but not allowed to stop. Should the vehicle stop inside the zone, immediately a notification is sent. If a client is allowed to visit clients only, and due to safety of the cargo, when he stops in any locations that is not marked off as a customer, immediately a notification can be sent. This, it's a must. To create these rules, these zones, it's a must to avoid theft and abuse of the business. A control room can monitor live vehicles. However, notifications are critical. While viewing the vehicles, a notification will immediately assist in responding.
So, Mr. Muhammad, another question for you with this particular slide that you have. Can I be notified if in a vehicle, maybe I'm driving greater than an hour in a zone? Would it flag and send this to my line manager?
Yes, with Geotab, you can create a zone and then you create an exception rule for that zone, and based on the criteria, either distance driven or hours. And if it triggers that hour that you have set, then notifications can be sent to the line manager.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, sir.
Monitoring doors open at non-clients or unauthorized areas. Keeping vehicles and drivers safe is a key to running a business. Monitoring stock delivery locations is a great feature in safety of stock and company growth. Installing door switches, adding all the client zones, and setting up rules for these doors to be only allowed to be open inside a zone is beneficial in curbing stock being dropped off at unauthorized locations. Rules can be set that can warn the driver if the doors are left open and he has started the trip. Immediately there will be a buzzer triggering, and this audible alert would allow the driver to immediately stop, confirm that the cargo door is closed, and then he can continue his trip, allowing the driver not to allow goods to fall off the vehicle unknowingly. Reducing speed using notifications. Monitoring location is important. However, if the driver continues his trip and does not obey the speed rules, it is incurring the vehicle to be unsafe and an expense to the business. It is critical to set up that all notifications in MyGeotab to assist curb the problems. For notifications, you have vehicle alerts, where in the vehicle it will beep, or with the GoTalk you can have audible alerts. For the fleet operators, you can set up emails with easy customizations, and a control room can have access to be notified immediately when a rule is broken live. Accident data. In addition to trip detail, a device contains a high-resolution accident data record that can monitor possible accident. I'm going to play a video clip on how to generate accident reports. Please make sure that you have set up notifications to get possible accident data.
With Geotab's new accident reconstruction add-in, fleet managers can now view, analyze, and interpret accident data from a Go device in one central location. Once a vehicle collision occurs, the accelerometer within the Go device will detect an accident level event with a G-force of 2.5 or greater and transmit second-by-second GPS data to your database. Combining essential latitude, longitude, speed, RPMs, and accelerometer, this enables you to reconstruct the accident. The The add-in analyzes and presents the accelerometer data in an easy-to-read format. The report includes accident location, point of impact, speed profile, and other vital information about the accident. Once you've logged into your database, from the main menu, select Activity. Then select Accident Reconstruction. Using the panel on the right, select the vehicle in question. Then select the vehicle type, or let Geotab decide. Now select the date and time around the start of the accident. And finally, select the approximate end time of the accident. Please note that if there is more than one accident that has occurred for a specified time, the most recent accident will populate. Device information will now specify the time of the accident, vehicle VIN, and the driver associated with the trip during the accident. Click the trip history to display where the crash occurred. Click Speed Data to display the speed profile graph. Choose RPM to display the engine data graph. And for accelerometer data, click the same. All relevant margins of error as well as a legal disclaimer are listed to read. To use this accident reconstruction add-in, contact your reseller or click Request Information.
Thank you. My next slide, I will be discussing exception notifications with panic buttons. Driver assists with panic buttons. These buttons can be placed visible or hidden. And when an emergency arises, if your rules are created and notifications are set, when the driver presses the panic, a team can be notified on the event. Take note that this data can also be sent to external applications through the MyGeotab SDK, which is a software development kit, assisting data to be available on other platforms. Thus, Control Room can see notifications in their personal business applications too. Using MyGeotab as a safety tool is not only focusing on the safety of the driver and vehicle, but ensures the return on investment. With the topics I have discussed today, please ensure that your Geotab users are aiding the zones and creating the speed rules and zone rules in assisting creating an environment for the business to grow to safety and new heights.
Fantastic stuff. A very informative presentation that you have for us, Mohammed. It is beautiful to learn that Geotab just goes that extra mile to ensure that a company's fleet is both safe and secure, with peace of mind knowing that there's a support team over and above the safety functions that were just mentioned, ready to assist you whenever you want to, at any part of the day. It is also fantastic that things like just the DVIR can end old school vehicle condition checks that were usually once done on paper. And that's just me focusing on one safety aspect. There's just so much you can choose from, it's hard to decide. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to give a quick rehash of the housekeeping notes. Number one, please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be made available on our YouTube channel. I just added the link to the chat. I'm not sure if all the attendees can see that link. Kindly click that link. It will send you directly to that YouTube channel so that you can get all the content that we have loaded thus far. Alternatively, this webinar will be available for you to download upon request. And number two, at any point, if you guys had any questions, I just saw a couple of questions popping into the chat section and a few, I think we've got one question in the Q&A. We will be moving into the Q&A portion shortly, so please stay tuned for that as well. And thirdly, please kindly also complete our training webinar survey. It will pop up once the session has ended. So your feedback will be very vitally important to us for that. We will now be moving on to the Q&A portion, just to address a few of these questions that you guys have tabled to us in real time. So I think let's start by the Q&A question that I got first. So Mohammed, I've got a question from Mr. Rashid Mkande, who wants to know, I want to know, in a DVI report, is it possible to know if the driver does a checkup for brake system, engine oil, or tires, and etc., and to get an alert before he starts the vehicle if he didn't perform DVIR?
Right. With the vehicles, when the driver is doing the inspections, yes, he can, or you can customize for brake systems, engine oil, and tires to be checked. So you make it a rule that within the business, that when a driver, before he starts his trip, he needs to fill in the DVIR. And if there's any faults, then the DVIR will not allow him to complete as there's pending repairs. So the driver, before he even proceeds with his trip, when he's filling in the DVIR again, a check again for the vehicle, and if there's something pending on the vehicle, the screen will not complete and will say that the vehicle needs to be licensed before he can continue his trip.
100%, and I hope that answers Mr. Rashid's question. We'll just be hopping quickly onto the chat. I'm just trying to go in order format here. We had a raised hand by Chrissy Kamwana. So she has actually tabled her question. So it actually says over here, can the no-go zone apply to all vehicles in the fleet or only the vehicle listed?
All right, the no-go zones. So what you would do is when you add the zones, you group the zones. Your vehicles also should be grouped. When you create the exception rules, you can set up only vehicles in that group are not allowed inside that zone, or you can set it up that that rule is for all the vehicles. So you can decide which option you would like to choose.
Fantastic. And I think the next question that we've got is from Vanessa Smith, which is just directly under that. It says, can you import rules into Geotab from a predefined CVC file?
All right. Regarding that, please email us on the email address, and we will need to look at that information and then revert back to you.
Excellent stuff. And we've got one more question on the Q&A section by Danny Kahumba, who's saying, hi, how can we get the SDK to integrate into other systems? What is the process?
All right, great. Yes. So all you need to do is just send us an email, and we will send you a link with the SDK and help documents. And as long as you have a development team in-house, they can connect, and it has a tutorial and all the formats of how to access the SDK. So just send us an email requesting that you would like SDK information, and it's a quick, easy setup to get in.
All right. Thank you very much for that answer, Mr. Mohammed. And for anybody that actually still wants to ask more questions or maybe arrange a meetup or meetings, we do offer meetings on all platforms. We do also come out to offices. I know it's during a pandemic, but we do take safety precautions. Please find out details on this last slide, this thank you slide, to get in contact with any one of us. And to wrap up, lastly, just to wrap everything up, we'd like to thank each and every single one of you that has joined us, that has afforded us their time for this webinar. Your time is appreciated to us, and please give us your feedback in that training webinar survey once you do end, we end this browser session. And a big thank you again to Mohammed for guiding us today. So yeah, I think from the Geotab family, we'd like to just say stay safe. And until next time, thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.